Let's speak a little bit about finance industry. As we all know, finance industry has preset rules and not much to change. However, a very simple product. A very simple product as its name, offering innovations in budget and saving functions. Simple offers the term safe to spend. However, in our research that we conducted with Turkish users, the equivalent term is let's spend. So let's hear more from TobySterrett, Director of UX for Simple, or should we tell Uber of online banking.
So my name is TobySterrett. I'm Director of UX for a company named Simple. We're located in the beautiful Portland, Oregon, out in the United States. And what we're trying to do is basically build the best personal banking experience that we can for our customers so they can get better control of their finances. I almost didn't end up here, not necessarily because I almost missed my flight or anything like that, although I am traveling with a 7-year-old and a 1-year-old right now. Which is pretty intense, but it's worth it because Istanbul is such an amazing city. I wanted to bring my entire family. I mean more that I almost didn't end up working for Simple in the first place. I have absolutely no background in banking at all, and for most of my life I actually kind of hated money and finance. So how did I end up here? Mostly I just really enjoy making things. All throughout high school I basically just spent all my time skateboarding and making zines like this. Doing sophisticated stuff like cutting my little brother's head out of our family photos, putting it on heavy metal band, pictures, just cutting and pasting using a Xerox machine. In case my skills are too good, that's my little brother right there. This was before Photoshop, But then I started seeing people doing stuff like this, and, really fancy borders and crazy fonts and logos reversed out of photos and things like that. And this type of thing just seemed like magic to me. I really wanted to figure out how to do this. So I convinced my parents that I needed to get a computer, and I was going to write papers, but it was really just to start messing around with this type of stuff and figure out how can I start designing things. And I ended up changing my major from environmental engineering or something like that to graphic design, transferred to Pratt Institute out in New York City, dropped out after a year. I'm an art school dropout. And went back home and just started doing design work for really small companies, doing logos and brochures, things like that, just working for a really small company. And one day my boss came in and said, put this on my desk, we're going to start making websites. And I was like, all right, cool, I've made some websites for my band before. I kind of know how to do it. And that's pretty much what I've been doing since then. It's a really long time just making websites. And once I started getting kind of good at it, I started trying to make things that I wanted to use myself. Like this was a site that I made that was basically a way for punk bands and things like that to list the shows that they were going to be playing upcoming in your area, so that instead of having to go to the record store and get flyers and see what shows you wanted to go to, you could just come to the site and see everything that was listed out. This is just something I wanted to use myself. I was also playing drums for a church that was all Mac based, and there's no software for them to manage themselves. Everything looked like this. It was just super crappy Windows software that was made for Windows 95. This is actually from the website this year. I mean, it still looks like this. The stuff is horrible. So I decided to, this is something I could make a website for. So I ended up making, this entire church management app just as a side project. Had a bunch of people using it and stuff. It was really cool. And it was just something that I wanted to use and just kind of built it. So that was, I was doing a lot of freelance work, just doing lots of websites for people, and at one point I got offered a job up in San Francisco to work for a startup named PowerSet, and they were working on natural language search. So I convinced my 8-month pregnant wife it was a good idea to leave all our family behind and move up to San Francisco, and it was a great job. I met a lot of really great people, but after a couple of years we got bought by Microsoft, and we got folded into Bing.com, and after working for Microsoft for a couple of years, I decided that wasn't something I wanted to do. I wasn't really interested in search in the first place, and it was time to look for something new. And that's where Bank Simple came in. 2 of the people that I worked with at PowerSet were going to be joining Bank Simple because we knew one of the founders, and they wanted me to come along and work on front-end engineering, things like that. And I wasn't that interested. I mean, it was a bank, and I had a credit union, and why would I want to have a bank? Because in the States, a credit union is member-owned, and it's nonprofit, and it's kind of looked at as the solution to big banks. And if you don't want a big bank that treats you like crap, join a credit union. And I had my credit union for 20 years. I mean, I already had the solution. And besides, I mean, how the hell are we going to compete with banks? I mean, banks are some of the most well-funded and ruthless competitors you could possibly think of. A couple of years ago, I went to the XOXO conference in Portland, and I saw Marco Arment, the guy who created Instapaper and worked on Tumblr and things like that. He made a big announcement that he was going to enter a crowded field by making a podcast app. And he showed this slide to illustrate that there were already 18 podcasting apps on the App Store, and he was still going to forge forward and compete in this crowded market. So I decided to do the same search for banking, and there we are in all these banking apps, and there's just tons of banks out there, right? But that's just the first page. I mean, it goes on forever. I mean, there's tons and tons and tons of banks that have apps that we're going to try to compete with. So it was a really daunting prospect. But Bank Simple offered something that no one else did, and that was the chance to build something from the ground up. I mean, I just really love being there from the beginning and helping design and build the product from the ground up. So I joined. We started just kind of figuring out what the app was even going to be. We started out with our marketing site, and this is just us kind of sketching ideas for a marketing site, and just going through lots of iterations of what the features were even going to be and how we were going to communicate them, because there was nothing there yet. We were just kind of figuring out as we went along, and we just started kind of tightening up the app or the marketing site, figuring out what kind of features we wanted to focus on. Getting some color in there. We put some tweets in there from people that were just kind of excited about what we were building because they just hated their bank so much. Like this guy was saying he was charged $1,000 in fees in 1 year just from Chase, which is insane. We did some fun stuff, like our sign-up form was kind of like a letter to us saying you wanted to be put on the waiting list. And if you try to put a script tag in there, we put a troll face. We just had a lot of fun with this type of stuff. And it got us a lot of attention and lots of signups, and tons of people were really excited about what we were building. But it was just a marketing site. We actually didn't have a bank yet. So this is kind of where the concept of dog food came in for us. I came into the company pretty skeptical about even wanting a new bank because I was pretty happy with what I already had. But after kind of thinking through everything that we were going to build and we were communicating to our customers, I really wanted this for myself, and I wanted to build a bank that I wanted to use to run my family's finances on. So if you're not familiar with the term of dog fooding, it's basically a way for companies to demonstrate confidence in their products by saying that if they expect customers to use what they're building, they're going to be willing to use it themselves. Now, legend has it that the term came from when Lorne Green was the spokesperson for Alpo dog food in the 70s, and he claimed that he wasn't just the spokesperson, he also fed his own dog the product, and that's how much he believed in the product itself, and that's pretty cool. Dogs are an important part of people's families. But there's another legend that takes it even further, where supposedly the CEO of Calcan believed in his product so much that he would start every board meeting by eating a whole can of their own dog food. Which, if you've ever seen dog food, I mean, it's pretty disgusting. Like, that's a lot of confidence in your product, right? But in the tech world, it kind of got popularized when Microsoft used the technique when they were building Windows NT. So they were actually using nightly builds of NT to continue building the subsequent versions. And it kind of was a really good motivator because in order to keep on working on their product and letting their teammates and stuff continue on, they had to continually make the app better, and they had to continually just refine it and make sure it was working because they were using it to continue building the product itself. So we were going to build a bank. We wanted to use it ourselves, but instead of looking at it like this disgusting dog food, I prefer to think of it more like this. Like some really really good good-looking dog food that I'm really excited to eat myself. But it's banking. I mean, banking is a pretty high-stakes endeavor. I mean, if you search for stressed about money, everybody's pulling their hair out, and, people just, they hate dealing with money, and they hate dealing with banks. And if we were going to build something that we were using ourselves and we didn't do a good job, I wasn't going to be able to pay my rent because, of some bug on the website or something. So, it was a serious endeavor. So to demonstrate kind of some high-stakes, some dog fooding, there's a guy who was building a table saw that he was going to make it impossible to cut yourself on the table saw. And if you've ever seen a table saw in action, this is what normally happens to people's hands. Right? It cuts right through. I mean, table saws are insanely dangerous. I think my grandfather lost his thumb on a table saw. So this guy was building a table saw that wasn't going to be able to cut your hands. And to demonstrate it, he was using a hot dog. There's the sound. So that's pretty cool. I mean, you know, this machine works. Is you use a hot dog, and it immediately stops as soon as it comes in contact.
You got to be kidding me.
Let's see it. There's nothing.
It is.
That is amazing. That really, I mean, that's, it's like nothing ever happened.
But there's a big difference between demonstrating something with a hot dog and actually using it yourself and, you know, putting your own fingers on the line. So he took it a step further.
You all right?
Yep. There's no blood. There's nothing.
No, it didn't hurt.
This is a man who has faith in his creation.
So that's pretty awesome. I mean, that guy actually has faith in this creation that he's not going to lose his finger just by demonstrating this table saw he's been working on. So banking is not quite, you know, going to cut off your finger, but it's pretty serious business. So we started building it and tried to decide, you know, what did we want from our new bank? And it was basically pretty standard stuff that banks just don't offer, like personal finance management, you know, like tracking where your money is going. I wanted a mobile app. My credit union had SMS banking. It didn't have a mobile app of any sort. You know, just really, really basic things like that. But the main thing was that we wanted to build a bank that was built for the way people think and not the way banking actually works, because under the covers, banking is a huge clusterfuck. I mean, you don't want to mess with that stuff if you don't have to. It's a nightmare. And a lot of banks just kind of bubble that stuff up to the surface. You know, like just super crappy descriptions of where your money's going, no times or anything like that. So we started sketching out lots of different ideas of what we could do. We have you know, lots of information we can show. We know where transactions took place. We just started refining, and this is where we're at today. And it's been, you know, pretty true to the original vision we've had of just like, let's just show people what's going on with their banking. This is a transaction I made yesterday at the Grand Bazaar. We went and bought some Turkish Delight, and you can just edit any transaction you want, change it to dessert, add memos, hashtags, all that type of stuff, and you can really customize all of your transactions to, you know, your own information. And you can search that information too. So one of the things at my old credit union is like, there's no way I could ever find a transaction if I wanted to. So we give you all your transactions of all time and let you search all of this different information that you can enter, and it's all, you know, super fast and you know, just really informative. And you can save searches. You can see exactly how much you've spent on food for the month if you want to save that search, if you're interested in that. You can get, you know, charts and graphs, all that type of stuff, and it's all built right into your bank instead of having to use a separate app. And, you know, we had mobile, so like we went through the skeuomorphism phase, and, you know, you can block your card from your phone, which is really cool in case you've left it at the bar or something like that. And we just, you know, constantly iterate on this stuff. You can attach photos. You can send messages to our support staff just directly from your phone, which is awesome because I hate talking on the phone. You can send money instantly to other Simple customers, and you can manage all your goals, which is a really important way. It's a really important tool that we give to folks for managing their money, and it enables effortless saving. The idea behind goals is that you can, you know, set money aside for anything you want, and you can either set it aside right away or save for it over time. And I use the heck out of goals. I mean, this is everything that I know my money's going to be spent on is set aside in a goal because it's already spoken for. So you can put it aside and you know, not spend it on accident. You can do things like, you know, this is one I do every year. After Christmas, I start a new goal saying I want $1,000 by next December, and it just sets aside $3 a day. And when December rolls around, I have the money ready to roll for Christmas shopping, and I don't even have to worry about it. It doesn't, you know, put my bills at risk or anything like that. And I also set things aside for budgets. So like I have a food budget, and every time I go buy at a restaurant or something like that, I spend from that budget, and everything just evens out. And that lets us have what we call our safe to spend balance. So in this, you can see I have almost $6,000 in my account, but pretty much all of it is already spoken for different bills or different goals I'm saving up for. So I really only have $75 available to spend on whatever I want right now. And people, it's not uncommon to see people say that goals has changed their lives. I mean, people are saving money for the first time, and it's given people a lot of tools for just having their money set aside for the future instead of spending everything right now, paycheck to paycheck. Like this guy's paid off $20,000 in 9 months just by using our goals feature and some simple budgeting techniques. And this person, saved up for an engagement ring instead of putting it on a credit card. And, we've seen this like quite a few times, and it inspired us so much that we made a new promo video for it.
It's so nice to finally meet you.
That's the thing. I mean, like, the stuff we're doing is such a huge part of people's lives. I mean, banking is core to people's lives, and we're just really trying to notice that and give people tools for in making their lives better with their money. One of the things we really try to do is sweat the details. There's been a lot of talk about delight here today. I think this quote from Frank Camaro is pretty cool. He says, "To delight someone is to give them a small lesson in seeing the world as something good. It's design superpower." And, this is the type of stuff we try to sneak in all the time. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the site Little Big Details. It has really cool things like if you search Yelp for an emoji, emoji wine glass, it actually brings back wine shops, things like that. Just a fun little thing that's kind of nice when you come across it. We try to do these things a lot just as we can because, we're using this app ourselves every day and we love coming across these types of things. Making the transactions show in the date when you actually swiped your card versus when it clears. That's just a small detail that we just did from the beginning because it felt natural, but it's actually really different than a lot of banks. We send push notifications for every transaction you make, but I think the most important thing about the push notifications is that they come through almost instantly. So you swipe your card and your phone has the transaction on there almost immediately. It feels like there's almost like a physical connection between your card and your phone, and people really love this stuff. And we even include an estimated tip. So when you get that push notification, you can kind of see how much you're supposed to tip as well. And it's just one of those things where instead of having to use a crappy tip calculator, you can just kind of see what the push notification is and use that number yourself. A really simple thing is Wells Fargo's app on the phone. Every time you open up the app, you have to put in your full password. That sucks because if you're using a good password, you have to type the whole thing out on mobile, and so you're either going to use a crappy password or just not use the mobile app at all, or take out your laptop so you can see what your password is to use it on the mobile app. So from the very beginning, we really wanted to use the app a lot when we're out and about, so we made it so that you could use a 4-digit mobile unlock code, and that was great. It let us use it a lot more seamlessly. But when iOS 8 was announced, we saw that Touch ID was going to be made available as an API, so we did that immediately because that's how we wanted the app to work. Or when we were using it, like we wanted it to be that seamless, and people love it. I mean, they say it feels like magic, and all we did was implement an API, but it was the use case of getting into your banking app quickly was something that not many banks made available before. We separate out tips just by doing a bit of simple subtraction, just so you can keep track of how much you've tipped and the percentage and things like that, just to make sure the tip was correct. And people notice this a lot, and I always laugh at this because this person took a screenshot and then ran it through an Instagram filter and posted it to Instagram just to show that we separate out cash back at a grocery store. Another thing is we keep track of where all your transactions take place. So this is a road trip that I took with my family from Portland down to Southern California and back again, and I have this almost perfect summary of everywhere we went, and not by checking in on Foursquare or anything like that, but just using my card where we did, and it was a kind of like a journal of our trip. But sometimes, locations don't make sense. This is one of the most common maps that happens in my account, or at least it used to because it's for Amazon.com. It's in Seattle, and yeah, Amazon's in Seattle, but that doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't help me because it's just online. So we started replacing those maps with things like this, where we give some information about the vendor and give a link to view your account so you can see what the purchase was for, or even a link to like, start a return. We do this for lots of different vendors, and again, people notice this stuff and they tweet about it and just say like, I love this type of thing. With hashtagging, you can group all your transactions together, and we did some fun stuff under the covers that not many people noticed, but this guy did, and it was basically that this transaction was from lunch, and it automatically suggests that it's going to be a lunch hashtag, and that's because it took place near noon and it was a restaurant. So we said, hey, this is probably lunch. And sometimes, you can kind of sneak things in places you don't really expect, like error messages. If you try to set your PIN to 1234, it just says PIN is ridiculous. And, because it's a ridiculous PIN, and people notice that, and they think it's the best error copy they've ever seen. And sometimes it's just weird stuff like, the top of this menu lined up with the bar underneath, and this guy noticed it and said this was so satisfying to him. I didn't even know it did that, but, people notice these really small details. And we have this amazing customer relations team that just wants to solve people's problems. We can write messages to them, and people say we're some of the best customer service they've ever experienced. And I think it's because we let our customer relations people be human by doing things like sending animated GIFs, handwritten notes, birthday cards, and they're kind of the first front for people to give feedback from customers to us. So going beyond dog food, there comes a time in lots of companies where people start to question if the people building it actually even use the product. And like Twitter, it seems like people use it, but LinkedIn, not so much. But this guy made a good point saying that, yeah, dog fooding is really important, but you can't replace external user feedback, thoughts, and criticism. And this is what the company looked like when we designed a lot of what we have right now. It was just 8 dudes, not much diversity there. So this is what we look like now, and we started a new initiative called Office Hours. And we were just going to start talking to people within the company of how they used money. And this was the theme.
We're ready to believe you.
We basically just wanted to shut up and listen and just have people tell us their stories about how they interacted with money and systems and things like that, and really get the why behind the what. And we talked to 40 people just within the company and learned a whole bunch of stuff. We started extracting a lot of the common themes. We started mapping things out and seeing where the common themes were across different people. And we really just started working on how can we start improving the product based on this feedback we're getting just from the people within the company. One of the things we did was we made it so that when you set up a budget goal, you can add a category to it. So that way when a transaction comes through with that category, it automatically spins from that budget. That was some of the feedback we got from people, was that there was too much manual work to always spend from these budgets. So we thought, well, we can probably automate that. And that was just from talking to people within the company. Now you get a push notification saying this is how much is left in your budget, which is pretty neat. So, that was just from talking to a 200-person company, but we have, over 150,000 customers that we can start talking to, and we're going to start learning a whole bunch more just from, from talking to folks and just learning and listening to their stories. So I think we made a lot of good progress towards having a more well-balanced diet, talking to folks and taking all their input in. But we're always going to be eating dog food as well. I mean, we can't help it. That's kind of in our DNA. We're still building the bank of our dreams, and I'm pretty convinced that dog food can be part of any product's well-balanced diet, including the stuff that you're working on. Thank you very much.